His mother was into substances and hence stayed at her parents' house, leaving Zach in their care with his biological father nowhere to be found. Zach was a senior to me at school and an extremely bright student, so he helped me and my sister in return for me helping him with his chores. This is how our parents got to know about our friendship, which soon turned into a relationship. A few years later, Zach graduated and moved out for college. He got some funds from his grandparents and covered the rest with a scholarship. His mother, who nobody knew what she did for work, was always away and didn't even bid him farewell. Zach used to FaceTime me every now and then from college, explaining how things worked on the other side of the city, but the calls started to decrease over time. I made a lot of effort to stay in touch, but realizing there were none from his side, I backed off. Soon after, I got a text from him, and he dumped me via text. Dealing with the breakup of such a long relationship was hard, but I bounced back and worked extremely hard at school. My parents, on the other hand, had started doing well with their jobs getting permanent, and it was now a matter of a year or two before we moved out of that place. Zach's mom had been badmouthing us all around the neighborhood, accusing us of getting money from doing stuff. After a few altercations with her, my parents decided to expedite the moving process. 3 years later, my college organized a talk with a rising young entrepreneur whose business was booming, and I was asked to moderate the session. When I read the guest list, I realized it was none other than Zach. We attended the talk and went for coffee to catch up. He told me about everything, including how his mother had married an extremely rich man at work who adopted him and funded his business. I told him about my portfolio, and he offered me a job. Considering it too awkward, I declined the offer at first but later decided to join after his repeated insistence. Things were going extremely well for me work-wise, and over the next 6 months, Zach and I grew closer. One night, when everyone except Zach and I had left, he proposed to me, saying that he regretted breaking up with me and didn't want to risk it again by just dating. I was high on emotions and said yes. The next day, we informed everyone, but his mother wasn't particularly pleased. He arranged a lunch for us to get to know each other, which ended up being a disaster. His mother was sweet in front of him but made mean remarks at me when we were alone, calling my family and me gold diggers. I reminded her that we left the neighborhood by working hard and not choosing the easy way out by marrying a rich man. I told Zach about his mother's comments later, which he asked me to ignore. Over the next few months, mine and Zach's relationship soured because of his mother filling his ears and him believing much of it. I asked him to trust me if he wanted us to stay together, and after a lot of ups and downs, we eloped and got married. His mother was not happy about missing the wedding but kept up the facade at the reception. Zach and I bought a house and began our married life there. One Sunday, I got a call from my sister asking for some seed funding for her startup. I told her I'd think about it and cut the call. Zach heard me talking and asked what it was regarding. I told him I was going to give my sister some money from my savings for her startup. He offered to pay the amount in full, no questions asked, because we were a family now. I was touched by his gesture and agreed. Over the next few months, my sister's business hit rock bottom, and Zach started to worry about his investment in her project. His frustration was shown in his distant and rude behavior with me at home. The fights over small issues increased to the point where we stopped talking to avoid tension. The stressful state of our marriage peaked when he forgot our first anniversary, and I decided to stay with my parents for a while. Zach and I had planned a small get-together post our anniversary for our family and had already planned and paid for everything, so we decided to act as perfect hosts. I got a call from Zach's mother during this, asking me to pack my bags because she had found the perfect girl for her son. I didn't entertain her and asked her to get a reality check. She obviously didn't like it and cut the call. I returned to my house to set up for the gathering and talk to Zach about his mother. Zach was drunk and didn't respond to anything I said. The next day, the tension between Zach and me was so clear that even my distant cousins asked if anything was wrong. I tried to talk to him, but he shrugged my hand and left. He came back with an envelope saying it had proof of me cheating on him. I was shocked and decided to open the envelope. It had divorce papers and some inappropriate pictures of me with another man. I couldn't think of how this was possible but still tried to explain to Zach that it wasn't true. He didn't listen and asked me to leave, adding that he should have listened to his mother and not married into a family of gold diggers. I couldn't comprehend it all, so my sister decided to take me, and we left. I went back to my parents' house and cried, showing them the pictures and trying to explain that I hadn't been cheating on Zach and had no idea what these pictures were. They consoled me, and my sister, after looking at the pictures, told us that they were clearly doctored. Everything made sense, and we decided to talk to Zach the next day. The next day, before my sister and I could leave, Zach knocked on the door. I thought he must have felt something fishy too, but instead, he was there to ask me to sign the papers as soon as possible. We both sat down, and I explained to him that I didn't cheat and that the images seemed fake because even my face wasn't clearly visible. He listened and then replied that since he had seen the photos, he had lost all trust in me and wanted a divorce. I was taken aback and tried to convince him, but he asked me to sign the papers, or he'd file a fraud case against my sister for stealing his money.